You're watching Camnet TV, not just another channel. Welcome to our news. The headlines. UNZA student put on his defense for indecent touch of a female student's private part. Day one of voter registration marred with challenges. Information Minister DORA SILIYA reported to the ACC over social cash transfer. In international news, Russian President Vladimir Putin refuses to congratulate Biden, says waiting for official results. And in sports news, MWEPU ruled out BOTSWANA clash. For the details, join me shortly after this break.
Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chilua, the Healing Word Ministries International.
Starting on the 3rd to 6th December 2020.
Dr. Francis Miles from the USA returns to Zambia for a conference on issuing restraining orders.
Because you see, God responds to your revelation. So if you approach God as the healer, He heals you. If you approach Him as your shepherd, He will touch your soul. But if you approach Him judicially, He will show you He's the cause.
Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill. Time,
17 hours to 19 hours from Thursday to Saturday.
And on Sunday from 09 hours to 11 hours. For more details, call +260 962 965 883. You do not want to miss this conference this time.
With the details, my name is Liseli Kanyanga. The mobile voters registration exercise ahead of the 2021 general elections has commenced across the country. Electoral Commission of Zambia ECZ chairperson Isau Chulu has officially launched the exercise in Lusaka, calling on Zambians to run out in numbers to register as voters. Addressing the media shortly after he registered as a voter himself, Justice Chulu maintained that ECZ will not use the old voters register but is working on a new one. Justice Chulu says it is on this basis that Zambians will not register as voters, will not be eligible to vote in the 2021 general elections. Meanwhile, ECZ Chief Electoral Officer Patrick Shindano has emphasized that individuals who participated in the pre-online voters registration are still required to visit the mobile registration centers for physical registration.
The most important thing is that, you can register anywhere in Zambia, but then you've got to bear in mind that, you see, you have to have the polling station. That is the most important, because during the poll, the next year, you will want to go to the center where you're going to cast your vote.
So this is the card that will be used in 2021 general elections. It's very different both in texture and in look. In texture, it's lighter than what we had, and it's deliberate by design. There are quite a number of aspects that have been taken into account when coming up with this. One might think, oh no, it's much lighter than the old one.
Meanwhile, a check at various registration centers in Lusaka have revealed some challenges in the exercise. The challenges range from slow pace in the issuance of voters' cards due to inadequate manpower. Others have reported mechanical problems in the machines being used. Patrick Soko visited some of the centers and now reports.
Democracy is about voting, and it's about a majority vote. And to be part of this important process, one must register as a voter. The Camnet TV news crew took time to visit some registration centers in Lusaka. The positive thing is that the process of registering voters has started, but it is however not short of challenges. People who undertook the online pre-registration of voters were not being attended to on time as expected due to poor network connectivity. This is despite the online pre-registration process being said to be a catalyst to quicken the process. Citizens interviewed by this journalist at Munari Boys Secondary School shared their displeasure.
That I pre-registered online, so I was hoping I come here by 8:30 and just get my voter's card and go. The situation is pathetic.
For us who have done online, we've been told to wait because the system is still down. They're spending more than 5 minutes on one person. We have a lot of our people who wants to come and register, but obviously they will feel lazy when they see that there's a long queue and that there's only one person manning the whole system. So we are appealing to ECZ to put more manpower here to handle our people.
The process is quite slow because of maybe lack of resourcefulness. The Electoral Commission of Zambia must look into it to make sure that they employ more, because of the system is twice. There are those that can register online and those that on registration, the manual one.
Since this is the first day, you expect such things. I'm sure to get better with time.
And at Kabulonga Boys Secondary School, the process was equally slow, and the people complained that it took about 15 to 20 minutes to have one person registered.
They have just brought one machine to take the whole of these people who are supposed to be here. So, looking at the 5 days, 7 or 5 days that they have given us, I think it's not enough for all the people who are supposed to come and vote here to register as voters.
The only problem is actually the pace at which we are moving. Although from the time we started at 8, it has improved slightly, but there's still plenty to be done. For instance, we have the issue of those who did online registration, who are on the same queue as those of us who did not, who had no opportunity to do it. And those are feeling rather inconvenienced because it's much easier for them since they already have their data captured. So the best could have been set up another desk for those people.
One officer at each station is not enough to cater for the whole population. It will be very unfortunate to find that almost half the population will be unable to register, to vote, and choose their preferred leader. So I think they should look into it.
The situation was the same at Vera Chiluba Secondary School.
Venona vevchitika manpower paribe. Ako pasta verify vonsa pesa na kuprinting avonsa achitaeka. So pesa kazi result namba eva kamba tibafuna singa kuwani. Chifukwa yakuti bali slow. So motabwerera kutoka 8 hours kufika manje asitako vantu bali 8.
Introduction is not important. What is important is bringing sufficient crates to do this thing, the writings and so forth.
Now I'm wondering how my rural constituency is, because me I'm a candidate for Lufunsa constituency. If in town the behavior is like this, I wonder what is happening there.
So najita register 10 40 tukanambira kumtendere na pesa kulibe vantu. So ndiye pamene nabwera pano. So register 10 40.
People have since called on the ECZ to deploy more officers so that the process can be expedited if the projection of registering 9 million voters in 1 month is to be attained.
The process is on. The question remains whether or not the ECZ will manage to register 9 million voters in 1 month. For Camnet TV News, I'm Patrick Soko.
But National Restoration Party NAREB President Stephen Nyirenda has described the voter registration exercise, which commenced Monday, as being fair. Speaking to the media shortly after registering as a voter at Roma Parish, Mr. Nyirenda said so far the exercise is promising, despite a few glitches which he hopes will be attended to by the Commission. He says people should not focus on the negatives that have been recorded in the process so far, adding that it is normal, especially on the first date of any exercise. Mr. Nyirenda further hopes that the Commission will manage to register its target of 9 million voters in just 1 month.
Pre-registered online is fantastic. I spent perhaps maximum, say, 10-15 minutes, and that's fine. But I want to tell the viewers outside there, this This is the power. This is the power to change your future. This is the power to change corruption. This is the power for free education. This is the power to make sure that the future is leveled, not what we are having today. Make sure you go outside there, register and become a voter. Pick your choice. Determine your destiny. This is your country. Make sure that everything comes your way through this power. When I see perhaps today the first time that they are doing that, but I was told in the morning there was a jam, so they had a bit of some problems. It's normal. It may happen. This is technical stuff. But I believe that they should be able to make it. Let's not predict something that is negative. Let's say that they are doing a good job and they're going to make it. If they're not going to make it, they're going to find a way on how they're going to get everybody registered.
Political confrontations have continued in the ruling Patriotic Front, PF, in Lusaka province. Recently, one of the PF youths, Innocent Kalimanchi, told the nation that he and others will not work with Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo as he has been urging them to. But Patriotic Front, PF Lusaka District Youth Chairman Clifford Walia, who was recently served by the DPP by discharging his assault case on fellow PF cadres, has warned Innocent Kalimanchi and others against disrespecting the party leadership. Mr. Walia says the party will not tolerate any members in the habit of disrespecting the party's rank and file. National Youth Executive Committee Deputy Youth Chairman Benjamin Siwale has also been suspended from the party for engaging party chairman for Lusaka province, Paul Monga. More in the following report.
Patriotic Front members have continued to express disappointment at the manner in which some party members are disrespecting party leaders. Addressing the youths in Lusaka Monday when he sensitized them to register as voters in order for them to take part in the elections next year, Patriotic Front District Youth Chairman Clifford Walia says the party will not tolerate lawlessness, especially as the country heads towards a crucial time of elections. He says the behavior of Innocent Kalimanchi recently at the courts is uncalled for, urging all members to avoid such behavior.
So tatwa posesta fakturo kwati wonsaka twafuma pano chira muntu okwale mbesesha okwalera ino timoni landapo ndombana mona kwati insere shafula ukwambokula tukama leaders aba president wasonta ukwambokula tukama aba leaders aba president wasonta ukula tukaba district ukula tukaba province ukula tuka aba SG if fiena muno murusaka district as a district chairman, district chief chairman, Shafila Keresh, I'm not going to tolerate that. Why you munyamata innocent wali mutamfya alifa muchipani. Uyo innocent anatanga buka fyo ruchero kura tukaba Kampyongo. Abu ko ruchero kura tukafyo munturi wonse. Mushamo ba youth mulasuminisho muntu kura tukaba muntu. Murusaka abantu ngabamba kura tukama litazi ngaba kopa belt ngabamba. Ngaba kopa belt ngabamba. Ngaba kwa centro ngabamba. Ngaba nankani ngabamba. Sheshkara chipa nicho.
Meanwhile, Mr. Walia has appealed to Party Secretary General Davis Mwila to facilitate a meeting for the youths to meet the party president at Galungu.
Secretary General, bali tuwebo kwa watu tufoila kashtaka kumanana na wakateka. Please wa Secretary General turero mbakuri imwe. Chipwana 1 wiki chilafai kwa muli una mulungu tualamba mutu pele yo program back tumone wakateka tukabebe file chitika.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Still in the news, National Development Planning Minister Alexander Chiteme says Zambia has laid a sound foundation for the implementation, monitoring and reporting of Sustainable Development Goals SDGs. Briefing the Parliamentary Committee on Cabinet Affairs Monday, Mr. Chiteme informed the committee that the Ministry of National Development Planning through the Zambia Statistics Agency has developed the National SDGs Baseline Report, which provides comprehensive assessment of indicators that Zambia is able to report on with the data available from local and international data sources. He explains that in line with the National Planning and Budgeting Policy of 2014 and the National Planning and Budgeting Bill of 2019, the Ministry of National Development Planning has been guiding government ministries, provinces and spending agencies on the mainstreaming of SDGs at various levels. Moving on in the news, the Medical for Quality Healthcare in Zambia, MWEPU, has strongly condemned the reported abuse and misapplication of funds donated by various stakeholders for the purpose of fighting the COVID-19 pandemic. Organization Executive Director Dr. Quincy Chabu notes that these sad revelations have come at a time when the Ministry of Health has failed to pay allowances to frontliners. Dr. Mwabu has since demanded that the hard-working health workers fighting coronavirus be paid immediately, as promised to them by the health minister. Meanwhile, MWEPU has also called for quick actions from the Anti-Corruption Commission against all those behind this abuse. He says the country cannot manage to let people abuse office and public resources for their personal beliefs when the health sector has monumental challenges. The revelations for the Auditor General's Office report revealed that billions of COVID-19 funds were abused, misused and some unaccounted for.
We are very disappointed as the MWEPU and we strongly condemn the reported of abuse and mismanagement of funds which were donated by various stakeholders to fight the COVID-19 in our country. This is very shocking and we are very disappointed by the Minister of Health, the way they have handled the funds. And this side development come at a time when the Minister of Health, they have completely failed to pay the incentives to all the health workers, especially the frontliners who are fighting COVID-19. And we demand that all the health workers, those who are fighting COVID-19, they need to be paid these incentives as quickly as possible. And we further demand that this issue need to be investigated as quickly as possible. And those who be found wanting should not be spared, because we are going to lose confidence. A lot of people, especially the stakeholders and partners, they are going to lose confidence in Ministry of Health. So this issue need to be investigated as quickly as possible by the SEC. And we further demand that all the funds that were donated by the various partnerships and various stakeholders need to be accounted for, so that the Minister of Health can restore back the trust and confidence by the various stakeholders.
A private citizen, Nicholas Mwale, has reported Petauke Central Member of Parliament, DORA SILIYA, to the Anti-Corruption Commission for allegedly contravention of the Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012. While in Sinda District of Eastern Province on the 27th of October 2020, Ms. SILIYA was quoted as urging headmen who are doing well economically to lie to government workers handling the social cash transfer scheme that they too are suffering, so they can be included on the scheme. But according to Mr. Piri, Ms. SILIYA's actions are tantamount to contravening the Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012 and cause for investigation and possible prosecution if found guilty. More in this report.
Nicholas Piri, a private citizen, in a letter dated 9th November 2020, has reported Petauke Central Member of Parliament DORA SILIYA for what he terms at contravention of Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012. Details of the report are that while in Eastern Province, DORA SILIYA, who is also Chief Government Spokesperson, is alleged to have told some village headmen of Sinda District in Eastern Province to provide false information to public officers managing the Social Cash Transfer Program in order for them to become beneficiaries against the laydown procedure. The Social Cash Transfer is a government program financed using public and donor funds to provide relief and social safety net for the most vulnerable individuals in some Zambian communities.
Imwe mkaenda kwa DC akampuziseni ya DC kutaka mkoshani ichi mwayankateti akampuzani ichi mwayankatelo olo munangu nyumba ya malata nkukamba kupenangu kuti yawe nilibe nyumba ya malata kuti mungenemo.
According to the complaint letter, Mr. Piri says the matter calls for investigation and possible prosecution.
The issue of impunity in this country, the culture of impunity where people break the law, people can do anything and no repercussions follow. And so you see it that Ms. SILIYA, when she went to Eastern Province, was publicly advising village headmen on how to defraud government by giving false information to public officers so that they could be beneficiaries on the social cash transfer. We think that her conduct is contrary to the provisions of the law, specifically the Anti-Corruption Act No. 3 of 2012, and as such, it needs to be investigated and possibly prosecuted. And that's why we have come here, so that we don't just complain on social media or indeed make press statements. We need to utilize the institutions of governance, such as the ACC, such as the police, and for the case of Ms. SILIYA, we think that the ACC is the right place for her to be prosecuted and investigated. Surprisingly, State House also issued a statement through Mr. Isaac Chipampe to come to her defense. So we think we should not institutionalize impunity and start to defend it. But anyway, we'll wait and see what the ACC is going to say. They have received a report, they have acknowledged receipt of a report, and what remains now is the due process of investigations to happen, and then they'll tell us what the next steps will be.
Mr. Piri says if the Anti-Corruption Commission fails to take heed of the complaint, he will go to any lengths to ensure that accountability in these social protection services is upheld.
I recall that we did write an open letter to the President asking the President to relieve Ms. SILIYA of her duties because of her tribal sentiments, but also because of encouraging and abetting criminality. In an event that the President does not move, the ACC does not move, I think the general public is going to have a last say. And I want to say that this issue of impunity in DORA SILIYA will not rest at this. We'll do everything legally possible to put pressure on the system that there should be some sort of normalcy. So we still have a number of things lined up, and we'll see how it goes.
ACC was however unavailable to talk to the media by broadcast time. Sharon Kalimbola, Camnet News, Lusaka.
We now take our first set of commercials. Do stay with us as we have more interesting stories lined up for you.
And why do you look so pale and busy scratching yourself?
Well, Amwandi, you know my skin is very sensitive. I've tried all the skin products and nothing seems to work.
Have you tried Oracle Pure Glycerin?
Oracle Pure Glycerin? What's that?
Just give me a minute.
Oracle Pure Glycerin gives your skin a youthful and healthy glow.
Ish, you're glowing. Don't tell me.
Yes!
I already know the secrets. Oracle Pure Glycerin!
Try Oracle Pure Glycerin for that perfect skin.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962 642 490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chilua, the Healing Word Ministries International.
Starting on the 3rd to 6th December 2020.
Dr. Francis Miles from the USA returns to Zambia for a conference on issuing restraining orders.
Because you see, God responds to your revelation. So if you approach God as the healer, He heals you. If you approach Him as your shepherd, He will touch your soul. But if you approach Him judicially, He will show you He's the cause.
Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill. Time,
17 hours to 19 hours from Thursday to Saturday.
And on Sunday from 09 hours to 11 hours. For more details, call +260 962 965 883. You do not want to miss this conference this time.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. A Lusaka resident who was arrested in August 2020 for exhuming babies at Chingwere Cemetery and stealing clothes from them and later sentenced to a 2-year suspended sentence has again been arrested on the same charge. Fiesta Tembo, age 22, of No Fixed Aboard, has for the second time been arrested for allegedly exhuming dead bodies of babies while breaking their coffins and stealing anything they were buried in. Fiesta was arrested after several complaints by residents of the ungodly act by unknown people. Police spokesperson Esther Katongo says an assistant foreman at the cemetery, aged 56, reported to have found one male person unburying baby graves and removing wrappers in which the bodies were buried in. Ms. Katongo explained that the suspect has also been found in possession of suspected cannabis. She says a docket of the case has been opened while the suspect will also be handed over to the Drug Enforcement Commission, DEC, over the charge of possession of prohibited substances.
Lusaka received a report of trespass on burial sites alleged to have occurred on 9th November 2020 at about 04:30 hours at Chingwere Cemetery in Matero, in which an assistant foreman at the cemetery, aged 56, reported to have found one male person unburying baby graves and also suspected to have been removing wrappers in which the bodies were. One baby blanket was spotted in the open. The suspect was identified as Fiesta Tembo, aged 22, of No Fixed Aboard. Upon searching him, he was found with a plastic containing suspected cannabis. A docket of trespass on burial sites has been opened, and the suspect will also be handed over to the Drug Enforcement Commission for the other offense. He is reported to be a convict facing a similar offense and serving a suspended sentence of 2 years since August 20.
Lusaka magistrate Tandosa Chavala has found a 22-year-old University of Zambia UNZA student with a case to answer. In a case, he is charged with indecent assault on a fellow female student. Enes Simazwe is accused of having put his hands into the pant of a female student while she was asleep and touched her private parts without her consent. The accused has denied the charge and has since vowed to present witnesses evidence in his own defense. Earlier, an arresting officer in the case, Lewis Malamba, testified that he received a report of indecent assault from a female student on the 30th of November 2019. He told the court that the complainant reported that she was indecently assaulted by the accused on the 29th of November last year around 04 hours while she was sleeping in her hostel, when the accused is said to have sneaked into her room and started touching her private parts. The victim is said to have screamed after noticing what the accused was doing, and he ran into the toilet and locked himself, but he was later apprehended by other students. Moving on, still in court news, Lusaka Magistrate Felix Kauma Monday reminded National Democratic Congress leader Chishimba Kambwili and new Congress Party President Peter Chanda that a courtroom is not a political ground where they argue as they wish. Magistrate Kauma said this after the NDC leader took it upon himself to cross-examine Peter Chanda after the court denied to grant him an adjournment on condition that he and his lawyers had abused the necessary adjournment given to them. During the cross-examination, Chanda failed to answer most of the questions put to him, leaving the accused to raise his voice against him. In this matter, NDC leader Chishimba Kambwili has been taken to court for questioning the head of state's relationship with Lusaka businessman Valden Finley. This is in relation to a complaint filed by new Congress Party leader Peter Chanda against Kambwili in the Lusaka Magistrate Court for questioning President Lungu's association with Mr. Finley, whom he accused of being a drug lord. Mr. Kambwili in this matter stands charged with one count of defamation of the president.
The Lusaka's Magistrate Court was on Tuesday morning, the 9th of November 2020, characterized with drama when National Democratic Congress leader Dr. Chishimba Kambwili acted as his own lawyer and cross-examined new Congress Party President Peter Chanda in a case he has been sued for defaming President Edgar Lungu. The opposition leader made his appearance before Magistrate Felix Kauma in relation to a matter he is accused of defaming President Edgar Lungu when he questioned his relationship with Valden Finley and alleged that the presidential plane was being used to carry drugs. This was his first appearance in court after his release from incarceration. Kambwili, who acted as his own lawyer, asked Chanda if he uttered the statement as a fact or perception, and the witness said he uttered the words convincingly. As cross-examination continued, Magistrate Kauma urged Chanda to wait for questions and answers and not act as if it was a political platform to debate with each other. Kambwili asked Chanda what the role of an opposition was in a country, and the witness stated that it was to provide checks and balance. Kambwili further questioned Chanda if it was not a fact that Finlay was once detained for drugs during President Kaunda's time, and as an opposition he has the right to question the characters around the president. Chanda still insisted that Kambwili defamed the president. Earlier, Kambwili's lawyers, Joseph Akafumba, who is also his party vice president, informed the court that Keith Mwemba, Gilbert Piri, and Christopher Mundia, who had previously withdrawn from representing the accused, had resolved their problems and were back on record to take up the case and requested for an adjournment. However, the court granted the adjournment on a condition that the witness on stand be cross-examined. Mr. Kafumba, however, informed the court that he was not competent to cross-examine the witness, which led the accused to take the bold step to cross-examine the witness on his own. The matter has since been adjourned to tomorrow for continued trial. Miriam Kemba, reporting for Camnet TV News in Lusaka.
Zambia Sugar PLC says sugar production is expected to be slightly lower for the period between April 2020 and March 2021 compared to the previous year under review as per the current seasonal estimations. Zambia Sugar PLC Company Secretary Raphael Chipoma says the 56% increase in electricity tariffs compounded with the hike in fuel prices and higher than expected inflation at 15.5% have remained a major challenge in the operations of the business. However, despite the many challenges faced, the company has boasted an increase in revenue of almost 13%, with reported revenue increasing from 2.9 billion kwacha last year to 3.3 billion kwacha this year. In its financial report for the 12th-month period ended 31st August 2020, the country's largest sugar producer says the increase in its revenue is largely driven by 15% growth in domestic sales volume and a higher realization of export sales due to a 51% depreciation of the kwacha against the US dollar over the year. This was, however, partially offset by a 27% reduction in export sales volumes. This is according to Company Secretary Raphael Chipoma. Moving on in the news, the United Party for National Development, UPND, is disappointed by Vice President Inonge Winner's claims that the Patriotic Front administration has never received documented advice from the UPND on how to fix Zambia's bleeding economy. According to the World Bank, within 6 years of being in office, the PF regime, led by President Edgar Lungu and Vice President Inonge Winner, has plunged the nation into a huge external debt of over 11.9 billion United States dollars. UPND National Chairman Mutale Nalumango says Zambians today are fully aware that the economy is in a mess, not because the PF administration lacked advice from well-meaning Zambians, but rather because listening seems not to be their greatest gift. Ms. Nalumango says the party can demonstrate that UPND leader Hakainde Hichilema has been on record advising the PF against reckless borrowing, as this would have future devastating effects on the economy. She says the PF shunned all reasonable advice on how to desist from excessive external public borrowing, claiming that they were within the threshold of their capacity to continue contracting debt. On the 23rd of October 2020, while in Parliament, Ms. Winner said the UPND has never advised the PF government on debt management.
I would like to say that we are very, very disappointed with Vice President Inonge Winner, a woman, given a very wonderful privilege to be Vice President of the land. And yet it has become perpetual for her to give statements that are not untrue, that are not based on facts. The particular statement that I'm referring to today is for her saying that the PF administration, the PF government, has never received any advice on how to handle the economy of our country. The economy which they have dragged into such a mess. We have no economy to talk about because of the debt that they have incurred on behalf of all of us. It is untrue for her to state that she has not received advice. And she calls it no documented advice. What do you mean no documented advice? Your Honor, Vice President Inonge, just admit that you have messed up, because the evidence of this is in the Parliament. Our members of Parliament debate and they tell you how to go about it. They debate and tell you, or we told you right from the beginning, that don't over-borrow. And if you have to borrow, borrow from multilateral or bilateral, not from an open market, not from private entities. You called Hakainde Bita. Now today, you have the debt to deal with.
Lusaka Mayor Mal Sampa has called for stakeholder involvement in finding solutions to climate change. Speaking at the official opening of the Lusaka City Council Staff Capacity Building Workshop, Mr. Sampa says Lusaka, like many other cities, has been battling with the impacts of climate change, which has affected the quantity and quality of water and caused serious damage to the agriculture, transport and energy sectors. He says government has put in place policies, plans and strategies to work towards a prosperous and climate resilient economy by 2030, thus creating an economy that will have the capacity to withstand the effects of climate change. He states that this is in order to account for climate change risks and opportunities in decision-making and implementation, as well as to strengthen the institutional and human resource capacities and effectively and efficiently address all aspects of climate change.
Lusaka, like many other cities in the world, has been grappling with the impacts of climate change, in particular floods and droughts. This has affected the quantity and quality of water and caused serious damage to the agriculture, transport and energy sectors. Ladies and gentlemen, knowing the impacts of climate change on the economy, society and the environment, the government of the Republic of Zambia has put in place a number of policies, plans and strategies, all of which envisage a prosperous and climate resilient economy by 2030, thus creating an economy that will have the capacity to withstand the devastating effects of the climate change and meet the developmental needs of the country and the city.
The University of Zambia, UNZA, in partnership with UNDP, European Union and the Ministry of Mines and Mineral Development have launched an environmental project brief program aimed at building capacity among small-scale miners in development minerals. Speaking at the launch this Monday morning, Ministry of Mines Permanent Secretary Panabi Mulenga, represented by Mines Director Moses Nyirenda, said the training is toward to benefit artisanal and small-scale miners, communities, civil society groups, women and government institutions directly working in mining and quarrying of minerals on occupational health and safety, as well as environmental management. Meanwhile, University of Zambia Vice-Chancellor Professor Luke Mwemba says the mining of development minerals has the potential to negatively impact the environment and straining of key stakeholders in environmental project brief, which will help in mitigating some of the negative impacts associated with mining.
As you may be aware, the ASM are usually informal and their production levels are low due to a number of challenges. It is also a well-known fact that mining operations, especially small-scale mining and quarrying, have been associated with poor environmental and social practices. The ASM sector in particular lacks capacity to conduct mining that ensures practices maintain the integrity of rivers, forest and ecosystem services. In addition, there is need to avoid and minimize the environmental harm caused by the extraction, processing, beneficiation and use of minerals from the use of processed chemicals such as mercury.
It is noteworthy that mining of development minerals, as indeed any other mineral, has the potential to negatively impact the environment. We need to safeguard our environment. Whatever we do in our mining activities must ensure that there is sustainable mining so that our environment is kept safe.
The ACP-AU Development Minerals Program in Zambia has trained small and medium-sized enterprises in conjunction with local partners. Since the project was incepted back in 2015, the training programs have reached 3,500 stakeholders in Zambia. The efforts resonate well with UNDP's strategy of contributing towards innovative ways of doing business and with greater emphasis on empowering the poorest. Development minerals can contribute significantly to the achievement of the SDGs through their close links with the local economy. and the potential to generate more local jobs.
And Emeralds and Semi-Precious Stones Mining Association of Zambia President Victor Kalesha says the cost attached to preparing an environmental assessment report by small-scale miners cannot be overlooked, considering that the reports are mostly prepared by the Zambia Environmental Management Agency, ZEMA.
I think it's a milestone, and it's been long overdue that this cost has come to us as small-scale miners, because of late we've been depending on the consultants and those that are approved by ZEMA, obviously, but the expense that is attached to just obtaining an environmental project brief has been excessive for a small-scale miner to manage. So many times I think we'd be able to admit here that many of the small-scale miners have been doing it illegally. They don't manage their environment as stipulated by the law, avoiding the expense. But with this such trainings where I'm able to do my own environmental project brief and know how to manage the environment with less expense, depending on myself, the knowledge that I have, and also maybe trickling down to the communities, those that artisanal small-scale miners that are doing cooperative mining, and I think it would really help us. It's been long overdue, and it's appreciated that SCP, UNDP would come up with such an initiative to train small-scale miners in environmental management.
We now take our second set of commercials. To stay with us as we have international and sports news. Don't go away.
Stay home, stay safe. Times have changed. With the advent of the coronavirus, Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company would like to advise its esteemed customers to avoid visiting crowded places. You don't have to move to pay your water bill. You can do it in the convenience of your home. You can pay your water bills through Zanaco Zapit, Stanbic Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and FNB. You can also use Airtel, MTN, and Zamtel Kwacha mobile money transfer services. For any inquiries to report a fault, please contact our customer service on +260 211 251 571, +260 975 618 618, and toll-free line 5957, Zamtel only. You can also simply email customerservice@lwsc.com. This public announcement is brought to you by the Lusaka Water Supply and Sanitation Company. Water is life. Sanitation is health.
Join Pastor Victoria and Moses Chilua at the Healing Word Ministries International.
Starting on the 3rd to 6th December 2020.
Dr. Francis Miles from the USA returns to Zambia for a conference on issuing restraining orders.
Because you see, God responds to your revelation. So if you approach God as the healer, He heals you. If you approach Him as your shepherd, He will touch your soul. But if you approach Him judicially, He will show you He's the cause.
Venue, the Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill. Time,
17 hours to 19 hours from Thursday to Saturday.
And on Sunday from 09 hours to 11 hours. For more details, call +260 962 965 883. You do not want to miss this conference this time.
Thank you so much for staying with us. We continue with the news. In international news, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he is waiting for official results from the U.S. presidential election before congratulating a winner. President Putin says that he considers it correct to wait for the official results to be finalized. He says he will respect the choice of the American people and will work with the eventual winner. Meanwhile, Estonia's far-right Interior Minister Matt Helm resigned after his comments about the U.S. election, calling Joe Biden a dirtbag, sparked outrage from government colleagues. Matt Helm says the deep state had helped Biden win and called him a corrupt dirtbag on his Sunday radio show without giving any evidence of his assertions. Here is a roundup on the story.
President Vladimir Putin has yet to comment on Biden's win. So what's the holdback?
Yeah, well, it's not entirely clear why he's holding back, but to see whether it's unusual, I had a look back at previous years. In 2012, when Barack Obama was re-elected, it only took a day for President Putin, the president of Russia, to congratulate Obama on his win. In 2016, with President Trump, he did it the same day, and he did it in a televised news conference. So it's certainly odd that President Putin has not yet congratulated Joe Biden on his win. He said consistently throughout this election when commenting that he doesn't mind who wins the US election, whether it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump. He will respect and Russia will work with whoever ends up being elected. So why might President Putin not be quite so welcoming to Joe Biden as president-elect in the US? A few reasons. One is that Joe Biden as vice president under Barack Obama was instrumental in dealing with the fallout in Ukraine after the Maidan in 2014. Very important, therefore, the annexation of Crimea and the war which continues in eastern Ukraine. He was also the man in charge of sanctions against top Russian officials, and even during the election campaign itself, he called Russia, quote, an opponent. So no love lost between the two men.
We now get into sports news. Chipolopolo midfielder ENOCK MWEPU will not be available for this Thursday's African Cup of Nations qualifier against Botswana. Reports from Austria indicate that Red Bull Salzburg will not release their players for international duty as they have placed their players in quarantine. According to a report on the Salzburg website monitored by Zandvoort crew, 6 players tested positive for COVID-19 after the match with Rapid Wien. Hence, the team has isolated their players and put them on rest in quarantine. National team's opponents from Thursday's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier, Botswana, have since arrived in Lusaka ahead of Group H African Cup of Nations qualifier against Zambia. This is according to Zandvoort Sports. That sports item brings us to the end of the news, but before we go, a look at the headlines once again. UNZA student put on his defense for indecent touch of a female student's private part. Day 1 of voter registration marred with challenges. Information Minister DORA SILIYA reported to the ACC over social cash transfer. In international news, Russian President Vladimir Putin refuses to congratulate Biden, says waiting for official results. And in sports news, ENOCK MWEPU ruled out Botswana clash. The Camnet word verse of the day is coming from the book of Joshua 24 verse 15, and it reads, "But if serving the Lord seems undesirable to you, then choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods of your ancestors served beyond Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you are living. But as for me and my household, we will serve the Lord." On behalf of the entire news production crew and myself, Liseli Kanyanga, thank you so much for watching Camnet TV News on Camnet TV, not just another channel.